You are listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. My name is Sandra Aoife and I'm your host. Here you will find episodes on all the Vedic teachings like yoga, Ayurveda and Vedic Astrology. For more information about me and my offerings, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you're in Germany, sandrahayes.de. So hi Aoife, how are you today?
I'm really well, Sandra. Thank you. This is a take two because my dog was being very noisy in the background, so I appreciate it. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a nice day for a birthday. It's bank holiday here in Germany. It's always bank holiday here on my birthday. And yeah, it's a beautiful day, sunny, and it's really nice to sit here with you today and talk about one of my favorite subjects.
And it's a solar return, of course, each year on our birthday, which is wonderful to think about because sun, of course, represents the self.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's another season, another journey we've done around the sun or according to Vedic astrology perspective, but because we are the center of our universe. So the sun in that sense is cycling around us. So the sun is come around again to its place, to its, birthplace. And yeah, we can make a whole chart out of that, a Varshapal chart, where we can look into the coming year ahead. It's really interesting. And maybe we'll talk about that in another episode as well. But for today, we actually have a question. We have the question of how do you see in the chart? How can you see your calling? What are you, what's the meaning of your life and how can you see that in the chart? And it's a really good question because a lot of people, and I'm sure you get that too, a lot of people who come for a reading have that question. What is my calling? What am I here to do?
Yeah. And I've spoken to other astrologers who get a lot of people talking about relationships, which of course is a big part of everyone's life. And in fact, there's some astrologers that specialize in finances and career. But whatever it is about me, perhaps because I have such a strong ninth house myself, a lot of people come to me to explore purpose or Dharma. Yeah. Mm. And it's very fulfilling for me, I have to say, this part of Jyotish, this shining a light on purpose. And it's not like you're announcing anything new. Yeah. Actually, a lot of the time it's reframing or just reassuring somebody that they are on their right path.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is a gift that we can give people. Now, we can get very specific, of course. We can get a little bit specific in this talk as to what we would look at, I suppose, as Jyotishis or as astrologers. And for me, the main two areas that I would always look at would be the highest zodiacal degree, which is the Atmakarka.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Dharma houses, the first house, the fifth house, and the ninth house. And between the two of them, the soul's desire and the houses of purpose, we can really explore that. And to be honest, does it shift? I'm not sure that it shifts. I think we come into this life with a purpose. Mm-hmm. However, as I continue to explore my own chart, I see more and more. It unfolds, I think, with age and experience. It continues to unfold. So I'm not sitting there telling someone, oh, you didn't know that you should be a doctor. You should go and be a doctor.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's a potential. And also, I think it's important also to realize that purpose isn't necessarily the same as career. So we can have a certain purpose in this world, an important purpose as well, but it might not, manifest as my career. If I'm, for example, somebody who is, really good at making people feel better, I'm not necessarily be going to be a therapist as my career, but I might just have that purpose in my everyday life to just make people feel good. I can be I can sit, work on the till in Tesco and have that purpose in life to give people a smile and make people feel good and, do something for that person for that day. So that's...
And in Jyotish, I mean, purpose really is spiritual.
Yeah.
And we're guiding people towards this as well. And as you say, the 9th house is a separate house to the 10th house. So the 9th house is the highest Dharma house, your highest purpose.
Yeah.
The 10th house is the vocational or career house. Mm-hmm. And some people have such a strong purpose that their purpose could only ever be their career. That's the way I look at it. Yeah. It's so strong. It's such a need in this lifetime for them that they will automatically make their purpose their job.
Yeah.
But as you say, if your purpose is spiritual, or if your purpose doesn't have to be reflected in your job can be giving you the resources, to put the dinner on the table, to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And of course, that's going to be based around your skills, but it doesn't always have to overlap. You can fulfill your purpose outside of your vocation by choice.
Exactly. Yeah. And, there's a difference also between what is your purpose or what is your vocation. And you have to look at your chart as well. What is your karma that you have to fulfill in this life? Because your karma might be to serve. And then you have to serve, and you might not get, and also it has to do with the dashas, when is a certain time activated, because somebody might have a really strong 10th house, but it's not activated until maybe late in life, or if at all. So there's a lot of complex connections in the chart that we have to look at. But yeah, like you, I would look at the Atma Karaka and the Dharma houses. And probably I would also look at the sun, because the sun tells us a lot also about the kind of sense of self. And, when somebody has a really strong sun, then often those are the people who actually have a feeling of purpose already. They feel like, I have some kind of a purpose in life. And these are the kind of things that we look at. We could, go through those things. And if you want to, what is your Atma Karaka, and how do you relate that to your purpose that you're living in this lifetime?
Well, my Atma Karaka is controversial because not all Vedic astrologers agree that Rahu can be used as your Atma Karaka. But I consider Rahu my Atma Karaka. And Rahu is there for me in the 9th house. He is there in the house of purpose, and he is my Atma Karaka.
Yeah.
So, if someone is looking at their chart, if they have access to their chart, you can see your Atma Karaka. There's 30 degrees in each of the constellations. It's divided into 30 degrees. So the closer you are to 30 degrees, the highest zodiacal degree is your soul's desire. Atma is your soul. Yeah. And
No, I was just going to say it has to be the Vedic chart, though. That's important because there's about 24 degrees different, and it might not work out in the Western chart.
That's true. Yeah, with the Earth's wobble taken into account. And the funny thing about Rahu, of course, we've done a podcast about him, is he's a tricky one to work with, quite mysterious, and he moves counterclockwise. So he would be the lowest degree in my chart, which would make him my Atma Karaka. So even in that way, it's slippery. It's slippery.
Yeah. It's interesting as well because the Rahu is he's the outsider. He's the only one who's not in any way a planet or an actual body. It's a shadow. It's the only one who is always retrograde. He's the demon of the mythology. He's the outsider, and he's controversial even in that calculation. So that alone I find interesting, because, you know, you're working as a Vedic astrologer. That's not exactly mainstream, you know, as your purpose. So that alone,
No.
I think, is quite telling. And because
And it's quite niche. It's quite niche. And there's a real contradictory element here that I find very interesting in my chart, because, as you say, Rahu is, you know, it's not counterculture, but it's, you know, it's definitely for an individual, an outsider who thinks differently.
Yeah.
And it's futuristic as well, isn't it? It's looking forward into the future. And yet, my ascendant is Capricorn, which is completely rooted in tradition and lineage. And I have the pole between the two, but it's allowed me to deeply study yoga and really get into the philosophy of yoga, because a lot of that is outside of time and space and what we'd consider normal academic career, you know. And I count myself really lucky, because I set up a yoga teacher training in further education, which is not the norm, the norm at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a private enterprise, you know, and I certainly had to train privately. And because I was working in further ed, I realized I could bring it into further education for people who, you know, could get funded, or, you know, wanted to approach it in a different way. It made it more accessible to everybody. And as a result of me doing that, I've ended up as a yoga teacher in academics, you know, in further education, with a pension.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really amazing.
Actually, which is very unusual, right?
Yeah, very much. Yeah. By the way, you inspired me in that regard. I'm starting that in Germany now, to bring the yoga teacher training into the adult education, but I won't get a pension from it. It's a different system here. But yeah.
Well, look, maybe we'll be yoga teachers with contracts. That's unusual in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, and it's certainly because I have Rahu, as I've said before, it's almost like having rocket fuel, isn't it? It's like, it's a real drive, it's a real impulse in my ninth house as my soul's desire. It's pointing me to something that I maybe need to resolve in this lifetime, to work with. And it's about removing the veils of illusion and really seeing the world for what it is, seeing, you know, life for what it is, looking beneath. And that has just played out in all aspects of my life. I've also got Mercury in my ninth house as well, where he's exalted. And so that gives me a little bit of detail you know, just as well that I have a little bit of orientation towards detail. Otherwise, I'd just be up here.
The ninth house is also the guru. He's the teacher as well. So there's a commonality between us as well, because we both have our Atma Karakas in the ninth house, and we both are spiritual teachers, or not spiritual teachers, but, you know, teachers of a spiritual tradition.
Yeah, teachers, higher education.
Yeah.
Ninth house is higher education, or look where we are, and travel. You know, you're certainly more well traveled than me, but it's, you know, it's a theme in my life as well. So it's a beautiful thing to explore. What is your Atma Karaka?
It's Mercury. And Mercury in Pisces is debilitated. So it's I'm not like you with the being. I'm not great with money. I'm not great with bookkeeping, or, you know, these kind of things. But I am good with philosophical thinking and imaginative thinking. And also Mercury is very changeable. And this is one thing that I've noticed in my life. About every 10 years, my career takes a turn and really changes direction. Maybe not completely. It's not 180 degrees turn, but, you know, every 10 years I've started out with I did theatre school when I was young, and I worked in children's theatre for a long time. And then I turned to dance. And then after 10 years, I turned to yoga. And now it's kind of just on the verge a little bit as well to go into the therapeutic kind of direction. But yeah, it's that energy of Mercury that gives me the urge to keep moving, or to keep changing, or to bring some difference in it. And I often admire people who are. I was just talking to a student of mine yesterday who just retired, and he was for over 30 years. He was working in a big trauma clinic here locally, and I really have to admire those people who can do that, because I couldn't do that. I would suffer if I couldn't have the freedom to change or to experience a variety of things. And that's the Mercury influence for sure.
Mercurial, isn't that the word? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
But it also makes you an excellent communicator. I mean, this is part of your journey as well. You've written books, you're a teacher, you express yourself really well.
Yeah, that's the other side of Mercury. That's my soul's planet for sure. Yeah, the Atmakaraka, and I can feel that. And another thing that Mercury is, he's young. He stands for younger people and children. And I've worked with children also all my life, really. Well, that's kind of maybe a combination as well of my moon, which is my chart ruler, moon in the first house. At home in Cancer, so there's a strong mothering instinct, and together with that Mercury Atmakaraka, it definitely has a lot to do with children, looking after children. And that's again, not only in career. My career is in that regard very strange, because I've studied. I went to college in Berlin to study education. But I went to Ireland just before I got my qualification. And in Ireland, it's not such a big deal. I can work and, but back in Germany is very strict with rules and regulations. I cannot work in that area except for, through back doors and in very strange ways, so I'm like a substitute teacher at the moment, which is giving me exactly that Mercurian unpredictability in the job. But yeah, it's very interesting.
And having it in Pisces is it's a dreamy place, but it also allows you to see things differently, because that's where Einstein had his Mercury.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his Venus as well. As far as I remember, I can't quite remember now, but I think there was something that, because we both shared some significant things like that. And I have my Venus on top of, in conjunction with my Mercury. And that's, interesting as well, because Mercury has the ability to take on energies from other planets. So because Venus is right beside my Mercury becomes almost Venusian. And that I would regard as the writing. I feel I have not managed yet to become a famous writer or to make a living from writing in any way. So that's another, the difference between my soul's purpose and the career. It's not my career, but my soul needs to write. And it's always been like that. It's been like that since I'm a teenager. I've been writing stories and in journals, and it's the kind of fantasy writing as well that I seem to really need. It nourishes my soul. I just need it in some way. So yeah.
So it's an innate sense that we come into the world with. The way you're exploring it, it's like if you knew nothing about Vedic astrology, you would still have to write. Yeah. But it just confirms what you know on a soul level.
Absolutely.
And it always reminds me of how broad Vedic astrology is, because of course we are studying, really from Parashara, but this is another branch that this is taken from, that our teachers studying currently, called Jaimini. It's just so vast. So we take a little bit of Jaimini, but it really complements what we're doing. And I've had some really interesting discussions with you around some of the other karakas. So
Yeah.
Atma Karaka is the soul's desire. But there are other karakas going down, and the lowest degree in your chart is your Dara Karaka, which represents your spouse or your partner. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting because the Atma Karaka is the planet, like you said, with the highest degree. So that means that planet or that aspect of yourself is most mature already in yourself. So that becomes the drive for your soul, the indicator of your soul. But the planet with the least degree is the one that is least mature in yourself. So that means unconsciously you're looking for that aspect in the other person as a mirror in someone else. And it becomes then your, what I call the soul partner planet. And it's very interesting. I've looked at many charts now that came with questions of relationship, and you can see so much in that, the longing that someone has in terms of the other person or projecting onto the other person. It's because that aspect in oneself is not quite matured yet. And of course, at the end, we have to try and mature it in ourselves, but the partner is there to help us with that. Yeah, so the partner is really there to help you with that as your mirror. And that's another beauty of astrology.
And so we can also look at as I said earlier, the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th houses.
Those are the Dharma houses.
They're the Dharma houses. You can translate Dharma, I suppose, as purpose. Some people translate it as duty. I think duty can come with some negative connotations.
Yeah.
But, depending on how you feel, you could say that this is your duty in life. You certainly feel that you have to explore it.
Yeah. Well, it's our duty to live an authentic life and to live out my purpose. So I think, that's all of our duty in that sense. But it's a duty that comes from within and not from, anyone on the outside.
Yeah. And I love that each of the Dharma houses in the natural zodiac are fire, because it does feel like an inner fire, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the first house we've mentioned before, it's the ascendant, it's the first house of self.
Yeah.
So of course we have to, take this into account when we're looking at Dharma. But the next Dharma house is the 5th house. And the 5th house is the house of creativity. And of course, children.
Life. Yeah, what we create.
Yeah. And then we have the 9th house, which, as you say, is about guru, it's about teacher. And I suppose when we're always looking for certain things, certain themes, that it's called confluence, isn't it? I think Marianne refers to as confluence. I think absolutely. It's very difficult when you sit down and look at a chart. It's like you dive in, you take a deep breath, and you're like, all these things start popping off, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm making lists, but you start to get some cohesion, don't you? And it's like certain words, certain terms, certain, as we say, ideas around purpose and path really start to come together. And I often wouldn't give my clients, a particular word to sum up their chart, because that's very minimalist. But in my mind, a word, something always comes, and it's often around purpose in this lifetime, because that's what we're here to explore. I mean, Vedic astrology, Bhagavad Gita, all these texts, they are acknowledging that this is one of many lifetimes. And it's thought that, as you say, what your soul hasn't resolved, it's come in now. Do in this lifetime. And with the family we come into, there could be, energy around that as well. And then what we do with our lives, it's a very important question, of course.
Absolutely. And it's one of the Purusharthas as well. It's the basic need of, us as humans is to know our purpose, or to feel that there's a meaning to our life, and that we are somehow have a place in this society, and have a purpose as well. And that's really important for us. And so yeah, we can see a lot of that in the chart, and even by basic things like those Dharma houses, the first, the fifth, and the ninth. What kind of element are there? Are they in water houses, or in water signs, or in air signs, or that alone tells us a lot. And what way are the rulers of the houses, that the where are they placed, and how are they, in what condition are they, and who are they with, and all of those things can give us a lot of clues. And then also, the strength of the sun, the sense of self. Yeah, that's an important one as well. Yeah,
strength of self. And yet, I've often worked with people who work in charity, or just the most selfless people.
Yeah.
And their sun is technically very challenged.
Yeah.
Maybe it's debilitated, maybe it's weak, because that'll weaken the ego, and it makes their purpose not, ego-based at all.
Yeah.
To serve others. It's a really interesting thing to look at the strength of the sun. And it also indicates whether your purpose will play out on the world stage. I mean, if it's in the 10th house, chances are you're on stage somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's it. Where is it going to play out? Just like you said, because often when people ask about purpose, what they mean is, what am I supposed to do in life? What's my career, or what should I, or maybe they are stuck in a job that doesn't feel fulfilling, and they are searching, they're looking for, what is their purpose, and how can they live it out, in their life as a career. And so to look at the 10th house then, and in relation to all the other things, to the Atmakaraka and the Dharma houses, can be very telling in that regard. It's really interesting to see, some of the, in some charts, you can really see a very clear, connection between the 10th house and the Dharma houses, or the 10th and the 9th house as well. And, and that's often the people who they made their purpose their career.
I had an interesting reading recently with a client who was a nurse. She worked in healthcare, and she had become burnt out and taken a break. And I was just curious as to what she was doing while she was taking a break. As she had, similar to you, she had a lot of moon energy, obviously the carer. And that's where the nursing side came in. Mm-hmm. But she was working with horses, and she found it really healing. And I was looking at her sun in Aries, which was exalted. So a really strong sun, but it was in the nakshatra of Ashwini Kumar, which are the physicians to the gods, and connected to horses.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, sometimes it is so amazing how directly it kind of shows in the chart. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and there's an example of someone who, I suppose you could say, well, some people say, well, I just fell into my career. You didn't just fall into your career. You had the potent energy available.
Yeah.
You were talented in that area.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It might have seemed like you fell into it easily, but that's because it complements your purpose. So sometimes it's a very direct thing that I see, and sometimes it's a little bit more subtle.
Yeah. Yeah. And also what people sometimes have to remember as well is that the energy that we see in the chart, and it's the birth chart. So that's the energy we have. It's our natural vibration, our frequency that we, operate on. And we have that regardless if, of what we do or what we don't do, that's in us. And if we want to feel purpose in life, then we have to allow that frequency to just, vibrate on a good level. And that's the whole yoga practice, isn't it? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. It's to calm the fluctuations of those frequencies that are naturally ours. So what disturbs the frequencies are things like fear and conditionings and beliefs, unconscious belief systems that really, just, give us obstacles, put obstacles in our way. But if we could manage to let that go, then we would automatically live our purpose. Life would just create everything, orchestrate everything we need to, live that purpose.
It is about trust and surrender, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
By confirming that, I suppose, through an astrologer.
Yeah. So sometimes, we're not usually born knowing absolutely our purpose. Some people maybe are, but, I don't know. How about you, Aoife? How was your path? Did you always know that you had a spiritual calling or a teacher calling?
No, I think as I think I mentioned before in another podcast, I was a bit of a know-it-all. I like this. I like to tell people things, but my entry into teaching was by a very circuitous route. I mean, I didn't do traditional training as a teacher. I'm teaching nearly 20 years, and my original career was in beauty therapy, and I had, working in spa and massage background. And the spa that I was working in had closed, and I just got redundancy. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to take some time off and spend some time at home. And then I got a phone call the next day from a friend from college who was teaching in a further education college, saying they needed someone to come in it was like 4 hours a week and teach beauty therapy.
Yeah.
And the system, very different to the German system now. It's different now today, but 20 years ago, because it was a practical subject, it was industry experience that really qualified you to teach it, which, it's obviously important that I'd already been in the industry for 10 years. And so I just began to teach 4 hours a week. And by the time that year came to a close, I had a full timetable, and I've been teaching full time ever since. So you could say I fell into it.
Yeah.
But you could also say it was fate and destiny are funny words, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it was certainly part of my path.
Yeah.
To be a teacher. And I can only ever really teach what interests me. I find it very hard to teach things that are, quite generic.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough now that I can teach yoga, because there's, in the 8 limbs of yoga, it's many lifetimes of study. So you can really work with so much depth. And that's how it came about. Don't forget, though, I think I mentioned before, I have an exalted Jupiter. So Jupiter is the teacher.
So teacher as well.
Looking at my chart, I couldn't have not been a teacher.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? To see that and how life gives us that. You, like you said, you fell into it. And often this really is the case. Life gives us the path that we're supposed to be on. For me, it was the same in both ways. It was, the children, it always comes to me. I'm not seeking it out, but I'm always working with children in some way. And that was since I'm a teenager, and, was babysitting, and then somebody recommended me and I got a job in this, childcare facility and, different things. And they just happened. And through that, like you, I fell into the teaching as well, because I had done theater school in Berlin, and I wanted to do something with that. And I applied for a job in a kind of a music school, and they said, no, they don't have space for theater, but they see on my CV I've done tap dance. So if I could teach a tap dance class. And I said, well, I don't have too much experience in that, but I'll do it until you find a proper teacher. And I got stuck there for years because it just fell into place, and it worked out. And from that tap dance class, other classes grew. And that was when I can't even remember, it was well over 20 years ago, or 30 years, well over 30 years ago already. And so, yeah, ever since I've been doing nothing but teaching, really.
Do you find, though, as much as it's a blessing, sometimes I think, oh my God, Aoife, can you not just do something for enjoyment and not end up teaching it?
I know exactly what you mean. It's funny because I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. It's
something for myself.
Yeah. I used to feel bad sometimes as well, because as soon as I learned something, I got the urge to teach it. And I felt like, oh, isn't this too early? I can't be just teaching something without actually a lot of experience. And, but there's such an urge in me to teach, or to at least, pass it on, or it's almost like in Ayurveda, this is, you take something in through your senses, and you digest it, and then you have to eliminate it. And to me, this is an elimination. It's like, I have to eliminate it again. And maybe this is why I like to write, because it has to just come out somehow.
It's a way of processing and eliminating.
It is. It's a part of a process.
It's a way of sharing, because you see, I think we're similar in our excitement about life and what we learn. We're very passionate, and you want to share that with people.
Absolutely. And I think it does have to do with both of our Atma Karakas being in the ninth house of teaching and higher education. And, the soul's purpose is literally to teach. And, a part of it is also, Jupiter plays a part. You have an exalted Jupiter. My Jupiter rules the ninth house. And, so it's, it's just, it's
really... There's another piece that I've considered as well. And that is, if I didn't take Rahu into account, which some astrologers don't, then Venus would be my Atma Karaka. Venus is in the 10th house of career. And I've spent my life doing Venusian work, people, qualifying as a beauty therapist, doing massage. I worked as a makeup artist years ago. So you can see that there as well.
Yeah, I can see that, actually. I can see you in that Venusian setting. It's a beautiful...
Well, it seems like a very distant part of me, but now that I'm coming out of K2 and into Venus Dasha, it only just clicked with me recently why I've started to get fascinated again with color in particular. I've been looking at painting every wall in my house. I've been looking at buying new clothes that suit I've just become obsessed with color. And that's an element of beauty, isn't it? That's this expression of beauty in Venus. I'm really feeling it. I want to be surrounded by beautiful things. And for a long time, it didn't bother me. My house was very basic, everything was cream. So I just thought it's a funny way of Venus starting to express itself.
When is your Venus Dasha starting?
In the summertime.
Yeah, so you would feel it now. It's kind of a fluid.
Starting to feel it now, and Venus is exalted at the moment.
Yeah, it is exalted. That's right. Yeah. My daughter's Atma Karaka is Venus, and she's a hairdresser. And it's a funny one as well, because she used to try different things when she was younger. She tried, childcare. She tried pretty much everything that I did, dance and childcare and all of that. And one day she came to me, and I remember that, and she said, "Do you know what, Mom? I'm just not like you. I want to be a hairdresser." And she's done that, and she's happy, and it's a really, she blossoms through that job. And I know it's a wonderful job, because I know that she does a lot more than just doing hair. Because as a hairdresser, or as you know as well in the beauty industry, you serve women, and you serve the natural sense of self. You strengthen women, really, because they come to you and they come out feeling a lot better. and they feel good about themselves through whatever method, whatever it is they need.
Hands-on touch and this safe
Everything.
space of being able to talk to somebody that
Yeah,
your information is safe with, and you might never see them again.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's almost like
absolutely.
therapy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then also another example, my partner's Atmakaraka is Saturn, and it's in the fourth house, which is, the house of home and also property. And, he worked in architecture and, measuring and, all sorts of things he did concerning homes, concerning other people's homes. So he served other people in their homes, building their homes. So, this is sometimes the Atmakaraka can really quite literally show, what is going on, where is the purpose.
I'm just thinking about your daughter. It's the opposite to a teenager rebelling, isn't it? Because usually a child will automatically try everything that their parent isn't in terms of rebelliousness and eventually say, oh, actually, maybe I am like you. Whereas she did
That's
it
true.
the opposite way around.
That's very true. Yeah. It in some part it was the other way around though as well in the dance part, for example, because I used to do a lot of belly dance, and that was very embarrassing for her when she was a teenager. And but then when she was, I suppose, about 17, 18, she started coming to all my classes, and she was really good immediately. And when she was much later, when she was end 20s, she admitted to me that during her teenage years, she would secretly practice in her room. She'd copy our moves and practice them in our room. And but she was an amazing dancer as well. And it was an amazing time we had together as well, dancing together. And that was another Venusian, thing that she expressed during that time for sure.
Well, dance, music, creativity, they're all expressions
Yeah,
of Venus. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And yeah,
Mm.
that's another thing. Maybe in her chart, for example, the Venus is in the second house, which is the house of income as well, and where what you earn your money with. So in her case, yeah, that's her job. That's just her job that she earns her money with. So yeah, these are interesting little connections as well that you can see quite clearly in the chart.
And it's fascinating to me I could hazard a guess, I could make an educated guess about how the energy I'm looking at in a chart has manifested and what somebody does. But I'm always so excited to ask them because, yes, that energy will be playing out, but maybe in a way that I hadn't thought of at all. That's completely complementary
Yeah.
to what they're doing. And each one is so unique. It's not as simple as saying, well, you're Venus, you should be in the beauty industry.
Absolutely.
So many ways of expressing yourself, creativity, expressing your creativity and connecting with people and, making people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
My Reiki master that I go to, she has said that, even if she worked at Tesco, she'd probably be healing people in some way. As you said earlier, sitting at the tills with a long line of people wanting only to talk to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, I had a client recently, I can't remember the details of the chart, but I do remember thinking there's a lot to do with animals. There was a lot in the sixth house and Rahu and, all the kind of, aspects that stand for animals. And one of her questions was also about purpose. And when I said something about animals, she nearly started crying because she said that's the one thing in life that really touches her heart. To think about the suffering of animals makes her cry. And that all of a sudden it came out that it was always her dream to run an animal sanctuary. And, but it wasn't in her mind before because she didn't think it was even possible to have that as a purpose because, she just has to work normal jobs and but this is sometimes what can show as well as if we look for purpose in the chart, it's not the job, it's what where does it draw your heart? Where do you find fulfillment, and where is that satisfying feeling of, I can really do something good here. I can make the world a better place, because that's also one of our urges as human beings. We do want to make the world a better place, and we want to be part of that transformation. And if I have the feeling that I can do whatever it is, then yeah. And we don't have to, now get lots of money and buy property and have, this big animal sanctuary. If we don't have that, that money, then we can't do that. But what we can do is, for example, volunteer once a week, or we can, do many things that might even lead us into that direction eventually.
Exactly. I think there can be an impatience around, what is my purpose? I want to fulfill it now. It's a life's work, and it's shifting.
Yeah.
It's unfolding. And as you say, perhaps she starts by fostering maybe a few animals or adopting a few animals.
Yeah.
And from there, maybe something will unfold. There can sometimes be a bit of a panic. And I wonder, is that related to, what they call like a midlife crisis, maybe?
Maybe. And also, I think it's often related to a belief that most of us have somewhere, is that, money is the only form of abundance. And, that if we don't have a lot of money, then we can't live out our dreams. But, what I've really learned in my life now, that, we can trust. I think we can really trust that if something is for us, it will happen one way or the other. And I've literally experienced it so many times. Like I told you, I think about my first yoga teacher training that I did. I didn't have the money for it at all, but I found out about it. And a few days later, I got a call from some office that I had applied for money for. My son was in primary school for transport money, and they had ignored or lost my application, and years later they found it. And in that moment they called me to say, we owe you such and such amount. That was nearly the exact amount that I needed. Or right now as well, I had again I had a phase. It was really frustrating for me, because I had sent applications to certain places and I got rejected over and over again, and I felt really frustrated. But then some other place that I didn't even think of contacted me out of the blue to offer me a job that is perfectly suited actually to me, and these kind of things, they happen. And I think the more we can trust that what is for me will come, the more we can open ourselves and actually relax and drop the fear, the sooner it will come as well. Because then, our frequency will vibrate on a clear level, and the communication to the cosmos can actually happen clearly.
It's the aparigraha, isn't it? The non-grasping.
Exactly. Yeah, the non-grasping.
As soon as you grasp for it, you've lost it. If you're sitting there desperately trying to meditate and you think, oh, I'm meditating. Well, you're not, because you've just had a thought, I'm meditating. You have to let it all go. Yeah. And you can only set up the circumstances for meditation to happen. As soon as you start like trying to grasp for transcendence or samadhi, it'll always be outside of your grasp.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's not always easy to trust and to let go, but it's maybe that is all of our purpose. And that's, in the end, that's also one of the Purusharthas. It's the moksha. It's the, letting go and the freedom from these fears and anxieties. And, that's just as important.
I don't think it's no coincidence, but I think it's important that's the highest moksha house is the 12th house.
Yeah. And it's
the last house.
Yeah.
It's about spiritual liberation, freedom. Yeah, it can be about solitude, isolation, but it really is all about the ultimate letting go, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
And if we're looking at a chart through houses 1 through 12, it's a natural part of the path as we gather experience, we fulfill our purpose, perhaps it's guiding us towards this ultimate 12th house of, I can just let it all go.
Absolutely. All right, Aoife, that was wonderful talking to you again, especially today on my birthday.
Well, thank you for spending some of your birthday with me.
Yeah, thank you too. And I look forward to the next time.
Me too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
You were listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. For more information, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you are in Germany, sandrahayes.de.